Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. Today's episode has been created to help anyone who's feeling stuck due to a move or a shift in business. Jennie has a very inspiring story. I'm so grateful to her for sharing all of these details so that we can really learn from her own experience of moving and building her business up again. So maybe you've recently moved, or you are struggling to grow your yoga business, or maybe you've been posting on social media and not seeing that time is converting to students signing up for your offerings. Maybe you've been thinking about switching your niche or taking a break. This episode is made for you if you were like, yes, nodding along to any of these statements. So before I get into things further, in case you are new here, let me introduce myself and the podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers. This podcast is being recorded on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, who were here on Turtle Island long before my settler ancestors arrived. And it's important for me to continue to learn how to stay connected to the earth and the people who have been caring for this land for generations. I'm a Canadian yoga teacher, a mom of 3, an entrepreneur, and a forever student who loves to ask questions. That's why the podcast is such a good fit for my personality. And also, I love that we can hang out and learn together. This podcast was really made for you, the yoga teacher, because I understand what it feels like when you leave a yoga teacher training and you step out into the real world, and it just sort of feels like the jungles of entrepreneurship. This podcast gives you a place where you can connect to other yoga teachers, to ideas and information. Returning listeners, thanks for hanging out again. I will tell you that our cat Leo just walked into the room, and I know what that means. It means it's time for me to get him a blanket. He wants to curl up and have a listen to the podcast. So let's dive in. I don't know if you can hear Leo purring, but he is purring here beside me. He is happy. I got him a fuzzy blanket, and he wants to hear about who's sponsoring today's episode. Today's episode is powered by OfferingTree. I use and love this software in my own business because it automates everything from bookings, payments, Zoom links. I really love that part. Reminders, and so much more. And we have a special podcast listener discount code for you over at offeringtree.com/Shannon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Pelvic Health Professionals. So that's the other hat I wear. I work as the founder of Pelvic Health Professionals, and we have a yoga series right now with Kathleen Pratt, who's a social worker and a yoga teacher. Kathleen specializes in pelvic health, trauma, pain, and the nervous system. And I'll tell you, oh my gosh, we're 2 classes in right now, 3 classes by the time you have a listen to this episode. And I just love the way Kathleen is running this series. I love that it's made so that you can take it out into your own classes and share this, especially right now, because I don't know about you, but I am hearing from a lot of friends and family and colleagues that our stress levels are really high right now. People have hit overwhelm. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or politics or the state of the world or climate change. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling stressed just talking about all those things. And all of those things are important to talk about and be aware of. And at the same time, we have to find ways to take care of our nervous system. And that's why we as yoga teachers are often the person that someone turns to when they're like, I'm so stressed out. I need a way to calm my nervous system. And so you can learn from this yoga series. You can join us live or catch the replays. And that's included with our Pelvic Health Professional membership. I mean, you can sign up for the yoga series all on its own if you want to, but it's almost a better deal to join our membership. So visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com to sign up for the yoga series. And like I said, it's included in the membership. So you can join Pelvic Health Professionals on there, and then you'll get access to that yoga series. Today's podcast, let's get into it, is here for you if you've recently moved or you're planning on moving, or you want to figure out how to grow your existing yoga business. And especially if you have ever thought, is social media the marketing channel that I should focus on? I'll tell you the quick answer. It's probably not as effective as you think. And Jennie MacGoy is our guest today. She's been on the podcast before. Jennie is so open to share all of what she learned after she moved across the country. And then what happened when she changed her niche. And also what happened when she chose something that didn't feel like a good fit. I just love how much Jennie shares in this episode. I know it's going to be helpful to so many yoga teachers. Jennie first opened a yoga studio in 2017 in her home in Potomac Falls, Virginia. I hope I'm saying that right, Jennie, and everyone who's from Potomac Falls. We talked to Jennie back in episode 161, and she shared how she moved all of her classes online during the pandemic when gathering in person wasn't advised. And at that point, most of Jennie's students were seniors and people who were living with persistent pain. Then in 2021, Jennie and her family moved to the San Diego area, and she set up a new yoga business, and it came with a lot of challenges and learning. Now, Jennie is teaching chair yoga and gentle movement to seniors in retirement communities, skilled nursing facilities, and memory care communities. She also loves to work one-on-one with older adults who are new to yoga or prefer not to attend group classes, or who have a variety of physical needs that require more personal attention. Now, when Jennie's not teaching yoga, she loves long walks at the beach with her husband. She also loves to try new coffee shops with her grown children. And she loves her dog, which you will see on Instagram if you follow Jennie. Jennie's dog's name is Penny. And you can find Jennie at her website, jenniemacgoyyoga.com, and we'll also link to her Instagram in the show notes. So let's get comfortable right now. Maybe that means legs up the wall. Maybe you want to grab a notebook if you like to journal and doodle as you listen, or maybe you're getting ready to drive or clean or walk or do something. Whatever it is that you're going to be doing, I'm so excited that you're here as we dive into this great conversation with Jennie MacGoy. Welcome back to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast, Jennie. It's so great to have you here.
So excited to be back.
I know that you and I could just chat and catch up about personal things, but today we're going to stick to the topic of what was it like to move your yoga business? Because this is a question that we get a lot from yoga teachers, setting it all up. I know before when we talked to you, you had a home studio all set up and you had people coming in person, and to move is a big deal then. I also want to talk to you about how you've done your marketing, because I know you've got some tips that'll really help ease the pressure for yoga teachers and help them. Before we get there, though, tell us, what is the work that you're now doing and who are you doing this for?
Okay, it is a little bit different than it was when I started. Right now, and I don't see it changing dramatically, I do yoga group classes and private sessions for seniors. You can define that as 55 plus. Uh, Age isn't as important to me as the fact that I go to retirement communities where there is independent living, so people that are very mobile, assisted living, so folks that need some help, maybe are in a wheelchair. I go to skilled nursing. I like to call them communities. The technical term is skilled nursing facilities or SNFs. I don't really care for acronyms, number one. Two, a facility just sounds kind of cold to me. So it's a community where people are either there for short term rehab or long term. Like they may be staying there for the rest of their time. And then most recently, the past almost year, I also go to memory care communities. So those are folks at that have been diagnosed with different levels of dementia, from mild cognitive impairment, or MCIs as they're called, all the way to the advanced stages of dementia. I also do private sessions, so one on one, again, though, with older folks. And then I have periodic Zoom classes or Zoom sessions as well.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. So, what was it like then when you moved? I mean, what did you learn right away? And what would you tell a yoga teacher who's like, okay, I've moved now. How do I set up my business?
It was hard. I moved from one coast to the other, for what that's worth, but you could just move from one town to another, and I think it would be equally hard. And to be I think that one of the most important lessons that I learned was to be willing to pivot. I was gonna say flexible, but that's a little corny, but be flexible. Uh, but that is so true, and that's not my nature. When we moved in February 2021, so this was pre-vaccines, and we moved from Northern Virginia to Southern California. I was well settled in my community in Virginia, had been there almost 20 years, had raised 4 children, was active in a church, the kids' schools, the neighborhood, you name it. So growing that business was rather effortless, and was just a real joy. I was doing so well until March 2020. And then I moved to Southern California, where I knew absolutely no one but our realtor. And the
Wow.
reason I
That's
say
that's a big deal.
huge deal, and the reason I say the importance of being, flexible and willing to pivot was I learned, it took me a while to learn, that I could not replicate what I had in Virginia and just plop it here in California. I had it in my head that that's what I was going to do. And it did not work out that way
That sounds
at
like a
all.
lesson in like non-attachment.
Very good point. Yes. But this stubborn person here thought, well, geez, I did so well. It was, thanks to you and others, I had a super thriving business. I'm like, well, I'll just recreate that. No, and there are various reasons. The pandemic was one big part of that, but also not knowing anyone. You can't just network, market, all of that to perfect strangers, not in the same way that I was able to. So yeah, quite the change.
So then what started working then?
It may be helpful to tell what didn't work. Um, Clearly, just trying to open up another home studio with private sessions and group classes didn't work. I didn't know anyone to invite. So that didn't work. I dabbled. So that was like 2021. I spent all this time trying to start that, as well as hold on to my people that were in Virginia. 99% of them were local people. And I clung to them and worked so hard to keep them online, of course. And that worked a little bit. But people were growing tired of Zoom online. And as things got better, wanted to be back in person. And clearly, I couldn't meet that need. So I decided to try my new neighborhood. And so I printed cute little cards, literally mailed them. I paid the postage, mailed them to the, I don't know, 200 houses in my neighborhood. And it was okay. It wasn't a money maker. I mean, it didn't really cost me because all I had to do was show up with my mat. Other than that, a little bit of marketing. And that was fine, but didn't really catch hold the way I wanted it to. Then I had the idea of teaching Girl Scouts, because I'm a mom of 4, 3 of whom are daughters. I'm a woman. Let's empower, let's teach girls at a young age all the tools that they can then hopefully carry through life. I thought that was a fabulous idea. I got, cleared, the fingerprinting, all the stuff that you need to do to be an approved vendor with Girl Scouts of America, which was completely appropriate. And I just didn't like it too much. I like my kids. But it was too hard. And I think the biggest reason was I was teaching yoga classes to them after school. They had already been in school all day long. And then I was expecting them to at least sit for a little bit. And so I said, I finally just said, this is not, it was rather lucrative, but it just wasn't sitting well with me in terms of looking forward to it, really enjoying, feeling like I was making a difference because they were always running all over the place. And I wasn't sure how much they were actually gleaning from the time. So then I became a contractor with my new city and started teaching at local parks. Uh, and that was good. In Virginia, I worked with people who had chronic pain, and you had helped me with my niche of chronic pain. And people love that. There's a ton of yoga here in Southern California. I live outside of San Diego. There isn't a whole lot for people who are living with joint replacements or osteoporosis or what have you. So that actually grew pretty well. That was nice. Uh, but again, not enough to be a real successful in the way I defined it in terms of reaching more people. So I started, and this kind of ties into the marketing, I started just cold calling, cold emailing retirement communities, of which there are a bazillion because this is such a beautiful area, kind of like people on the East Coast go to Florida. I don't know where all these folks come from, but it's just a really lovely climate to retire in, and started slowly getting hired to teach group classes at retirement communities. And I can pause there because it has continued to grow in a variety of other ways once I zeroed in on seniors.
I find this so fascinating, and thank you for sharing what didn't work because I think sometimes people are like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I should just give up then." I tried this,
Hmm.
didn't work, tried that, didn't work. And you stuck with it. And now it's working really well. So you have to decide like, do I still want to teach yoga? Is the question.
Hmm. And I did. I took a little pause. I think it was winter of 2021 when I was so frustrated with my inability to hold on to the large number of people that I had back in Virginia, and wasn't seeing a lot of I was resistant to trying to start over. I had it in my head that I was just going to stick with it. When that wasn't working, I don't know, I took, I guess, a couple of months where
Right.
I still had newsletters going out and the occasional social media post just so people knew I was alive and trying to have a presence. But I did step back for a little bit, and I had that thought, and that didn't last long. I couldn't not try to share with others what has helped me so much over the past 10 years or so. So sometimes that pause is good, but yeah, it didn't last long. I'm too impatient.
So the cold calling to retirement homes is how it started.
Yes.
And I want to highlight because I know this personally that you were like, I am not marketing on social media. I mean, one, your demographic isn't on social media.
Right.
Like the people that hire you are running the facility, right?
Right. Uh, so primarily would call activities directors at all of these communities. And I would mostly email, but that was a challenge in and of itself just to get the contact information. But I still have this huge, it's not fancy, it's a Google sheet where I have everybody I've ever contacted. And took time.
It
Again,
would.
living in an area where there are so many communities, the other interesting piece for those who are interested in pursuing this, at least in my part of the country, activities directors, marketing directors, sales directors at senior living communities move all the time. It's like musical chairs. They're always leaving, so and moving to a different community. So that's really hard to keep track of. It's like you start to build a relationship, maybe even do a free demo, and you're getting ready, getting everything in together, get the W-9, da 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 da, and then they leave, and you're like, why didn't I hear back? So follow up. I That took me a while to figure out one that calling or emailing these places is what was most effective. Social media, yeah, nope. I will post maybe once a month on Facebook or Instagram just to keep it a little bit, current or fresh. I'm not really looking for engagement, but if somebody finds me and is like, oh, is she on Facebook or is she on Instagram? They can go and say, oh, okay, well, she posted something recently, just so that it's not from 2 years ago, kind of thing. That's all I do there. LinkedIn, however, that was a shift. I like that a lot. That has worked extremely well for me, but it's still, you know, direct messaging. I had a free couple of months with LinkedIn Premium that LinkedIn gave me, which allowed me to connect a little more easily for a while. I don't exactly know how, but even when that ran out, I didn't renew. Uh, Messaging through LinkedIn. Hey, I'm a yoga teacher specifically for seniors. Could we meet and chat and see how I might offer my services to you? So that social media platform has worked well.
That's fascinating. Okay, so now how do you like are you all booked up then or are you still looking for places to teach out of?
I have enough teaching of group classes because I have learned, again, late to the party, you got to really crunch your numbers. I thought my quote unquote cash cow were the classes I was teaching for chronic pain at various parks in my city. I thought that was the big money maker. But until I sat down and actually looked to see how much I was bringing in, it wasn't. I was making far more teaching. It's primarily group classes at all the different types of retirement communities that are out there. So that was like a wake up call. But right
Why
now,
did
I
you
think
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say why did you think it was the parks?
I think because of the numbers of people that were coming that I had direct control over because I was reaching out to them directly as opposed to the group, at the retirement communities, whoever shows up, I have a flat rate. If two people come, if 20 people come, and I think that was why I'm not exactly sure. And it took me a while I actually let that class go because I was tired of working on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And I really wanted a Monday to Friday job. That was hard because I loved these folks. But I decided to put one, dollars above my feelings, and two, who did I really, who was bringing me the most joy? And it was really older adults. It was tough. That was just recently that I did that. But back to your question, it's interesting. Another, not really a pivot, but another way to bring the benefits of yoga to others, in addition to classes and private sessions, I'm now starting to teach caregivers how they can bring yoga, whether that's movement, breathing practices, guided imagery, social engagement, to those that they are caring for, whether it's a loved one or whether they're paid to be a caregiver. I'm sure, have talked to people. There's this silver tsunami coming, probably is already here.
Yeah.
And we're not really ready for it in general here, I guess, at least in the US. So people are, these caregivers are critically important for especially people who don't live in the same town as their loved one, or for whatever reason, the loved one or needs additional service. So I'm finding that a fascinating uh, channel to share. Plus, I used it initially as a marketing tool, so I wasn't getting paid for it. I volunteered to speak to anybody who would take me. I'm a part of the San Diego Dementia Consortium. I'm a partner with an organization called Aging Well Partners. I just joined my Chamber of Commerce. Um, I have been donating my time as a way to market, but I'm pretty quickly, as someone who loves public speaking and is really passionate about it, uh, I'm going to start getting paid for
Right.
those. And that, I think, from a business perspective, is going to be lucrative. So I still absolutely want to be working with seniors because I adore them, especially those who are perhaps in the latest season of life, who can very much be neglected and overlooked. I am committed to bringing them some joy. So, if it includes some movement, awesome. If I get them to breathe a little bit better, great. If I get them to smile, oh, successful day, like truly.
Right.
But I will always be working with them because I'm always learning, especially when it comes to dementia. So I don't see not teaching classes going away at all. But what I do see is hopefully more speaking engagements that I can be paid for that could really make a difference in terms of, the bottom line dollars wise.
Yeah. Oh, this is fantastic. I can hear the passion for this in your voice. And I think that also will give our listeners permission to change their niche. You're not stuck in one thing. And all of the training that you did up to that point of like yoga for people that were dealing with chronic pain, that would come into play so well. Like that population and making yoga accessible. I know that
Hmm.
you were always great at doing that. So are there some things where you're like, "Oh, wow, I've learned this about teaching to this population or maybe to a population that has dementia?"
Oh boy. Yeah. Dementia, I think, could be a whole other podcast. I mean, that I'm
Probably.
spending a lot of time learning because that's extremely unique. In fact, I tell people, if you come to one of my yoga classes for those with dementia, it's not for dementia because you can find programs out there that are helping, using yoga to help kind of delay or prevent dementia. That's not me. I'm working with people that are already in the throes of it. Some of them who there's very little interaction that you can actually notice, but I work really hard to try to get some. Um, let's see. So learning, that's been huge, and I've had to study a lot. But I love school, so it's like cool, bring it. Let me go study some more stuff. I'm absolutely happy to do that. I think one of the challenges, if anyone else is looking to work in retirement communities, whether it's independent and assisted, memory care, skilled nursing, would clearly be people that are most likely in wheelchairs. But when you've got a combination, which is what I usually have, because they say they don't have the budgets for a class just for those who live independently and then those who maybe use a walker or a wheelchair. But I was able to use a lot of my previous experience with pain, as you just said. Like, you got everybody at once, and I've got 30 minutes to try to help Rosemary over there who wants to do down dog. And then I have Virginia who's in a wheelchair and maybe paralyzed from the legs down. Well, like, how do I do that? So that's been a real challenge. I'm always exhausted afterwards because I literally run because it's a group class because social engagement is critical, but I the one-on-one attention is also critical in my mind. So that's a challenge, though. I have found that to be, whew, I didn't expect that to be that, the range or the abilities to be so great, that and to have them all in one place and try to reach everybody. So that's definitely something I didn't quite expect. But let me just say this too: words, as you know, words are so important. And something that I have always been passionate about, but it comes really into play in these classes where you have people of differing abilities. The temptation might be, all right, everyone who's standing, also known as more able, I would
Yeah.
like you to do this. Well, and then those of you who are sitting, I'll get to you in a minute, and I'll give you something. No. Now, I say it, I'm very intentional. In fact, more often than not, I start with those who are in a wheelchair or who are seated. Here's something I would like you to work on. If you would like to stand and take a different variation, here's an option for you. So I very purposely start with those who maybe in another location or even another part of their day would be told, well, you have to wait because you can't do as much as the other folks. So that's always super important when dealing with a mixed class, which most of mine are.
That is fascinating. I know Sean taught at a nursing home and he was like, well, it's the only class where like one person's falling asleep, the other person brought a doll to class, someone just got up and left, someone's laughing. And he gained quite a bit like from that class. So talk about the benefit. Like what draws you to, because it sounds kind of chaotic. Like you said the girl guides was too much because they were running around and doing stuff and you didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious because sometimes I think people might go to teach at a care facility or the
Mhm.
community that you talked about and just think, gosh, am I making a difference here?
I would say it's not for everyone, and to own that and be okay with it.
Right.
If you're not in it for the right reasons, and it's certainly not financial reasons. You're not going to grow rich. Your yoga business, I don't think, is going to go through the roof working with people that are really in either more advanced stages of dementia or just in skilled nursing where there may not be a whole lot of time left. The benefits I've had to think about because I have people that sleep through class too. Uh, but I always give it a try. If I see them start to wake up, you know, hello, Daphne, how are you? We're doing some yoga. Would you like to join us? And then maybe she'll raise a hand if I ask, and then she'll go back to sleep. That's okay. I do have people like that, or I'll have someone like Larry, who I called Jerry for weeks until I felt so bad. Did he know or care? Probably not. He was,
Right.
at that stage. But doggone it, I want to know their names. So anyway, I work really hard at learning people's names because that's just so great when dealing with older adults. And Larry would sit there and look, and that was about it. But several weeks in, I got him to smile, not once but twice in 30 minutes. That to me was a benefit. I made some connection with him that he smiled. And sometimes that's the best we can do. So it's not always pretty. It's not always you go home like, oh my goodness, she couldn't touch her toes and now she can touch her toes, or that person went home and has no pain or is super calm. Those are all awesome. And if I have that happen, wonderful. But sometimes it's as simple as someone waking up and not being scared, because that can be kind of scary, but wake up and be okay because I've talked calmly to them, or someone who just is able to offer me a smile. That's success. Truly. I go home and I call everybody that I know. Like, you won't believe it. Larry smiled. Which is why as a business owner though, I'm still would very much like this to be successful in other ways in terms of who I can work with and grow financially. That's why other things like speaking engagements and private sessions and things, that's where those come in. Because that's success too for me.
Connected yoga teachers, I'm popping in here for a moment to thank our sponsor, OfferingTree, and also to tell you about them in case you don't already know about this amazing company. So, for the past couple of weeks, I was away making maple syrup with my family. And I was so grateful that all the things are automated with our current yoga series because it started the week that maple syrup really took off this year. So the yoga series is called Nourish Your Nervous System. Kathleen Pratt is leading it. It's amazing. And I love that it's all set up on OfferingTree. So when people register, they can choose pay what you can options. That's an option that OfferingTree gives. They get to sign up. They fill out the waiver. It's right there. They have to do that. And then all of the Zoom links, reminder emails, texts, and messages are automatic. Our payments all go through OfferingTree. And last week, Kathleen jumped on Zoom before class and she said to me, how many people were live at class number 1? And it was so easy to look back at the roster and see who had checked in during the live and to see who was there. Now, these features are part of OfferingTree because it's specifically made for yoga teachers. And when yoga teachers say, hey, I'd really like this feature, they make it happen, which is fantastic. So all of the replays for this yoga series are also available through OfferingTree, through the store. So not only am I talking about OfferingTree and how amazing this is and how it can run things while I'm busy running my life and I want to make sure everyone gets all the information, but I also wanted to tell you in case you want to check it out to see what it looks like, and you can sign up if you want to attend live, or if it's past April the 9th, 2024, you can catch the replays for each class. It's a really good series if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, or if your yoga students are and you want to share some tools with them. Last week, let me share with you, we learned this quick breath practice to regulate the nervous system. So just try it with me now. We'll do it together in case you're stressing about software and how to register people for a yoga offering. So we're going to do 2 inhales and 1 long exhale. And that long exhale might be a sigh. It might be like you're breathing out through a straw. Let's try it together. So 2 inhales and 1 long exhale. Let's try that again. What did you notice with that? Now, also, if you want to create a website or you want a booking and payment software to add to your existing website, make sure to check out OfferingTree. Also, we have a 50% discount code for you because you listen to the podcast. So go to offeringtree.com/Shannon to get that. This, along with that breath practice I just shared, will make life a lot easier. Okay, let's get back to talking about moving and growing your yoga business with Jennie MacGoy.
In those private sessions that you're doing, are you working with people who have dementia or with older adults, or is it a totally different population?
It's older folks, but not with dementia. I haven't done that yet. If I did, I would probably need a caregiver there, depending on the level,
Right.
where they are. Because even in memory care classes, there'll be at different levels of dementia. You'll have somebody who gets offended if I applaud because someone was able to kick a ball. And they're like, "Well, of course I can kick a ball." Well, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to this person over here. No, I didn't say that to her, but
No.
it's like, just calm down. So no, my private sessions right now are over Zoom actually. And but they are older adults and they are every single one. The one that comes to mind most readily, she has had a hip replacement but has bone growing over the hip replacement. So she's
Okay.
not that old, but she's just looking to get some movement before she goes back for her second surgery.
Right.
So, yeah, dementia classes over online or even in person alone, I have not done yet.
Right. Wow. I'm really impressed with how you stuck through this because, like, all the change of moving,
Hmm.
the change with your family, your neighborhood, and just like knowing one person, because we know that a huge part of that is networking. And in your
Right.
in your previous yoga business, you networked from like, okay, my kids are in school and like I'm meeting these other parents. And as you get
Mhm.
older and your kids grow up, you're not out as much. I know that in
No.
my own community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a total mind shift in how it was all word of mouth back in Virginia. And it was all community. Like that was what people, I think one of the things they loved best was they felt safe coming because they could be their authentic selves and not worry about the fact that they couldn't do this, that, or the other. I would have people like, hey, Luann, you need a block? Here, borrow mine,
Right.
that kind of a thing, which is why moving to online, I know lots of people have had tremendous success online, thank goodness. But it wasn't me because people I finally realized, they're there, they were there for that community, which is why
Right.
when thankfully we were able to start meeting in person again, I still prefer that. That's still, and when you're dealing with older adults, is even more critical. And I have to be careful. I get all the shots whenever they tell you to get another shot. If they want me to wear a mask, boy, that's hard because you're dealing with people who are hearing impaired who might read lips. Oh, that's a challenge. But you know what? I'll do whatever it takes to if the community is still okay with in person and letting me come. That's my jam.
Right. I
Yeah,
also
but
love how
it's
you
been
are sorry. What did you
oh
say?
no, just it's been a journey.
It has.
Mm,
I also love how you said that you volunteered with different organizations to just get known. So you're still doing that networking. And yeah, you could look
mhm.
at, okay, now I want to get paid because I have been learning so much.
That takes some nerve, which I'm just now getting a grip on. This is a little bit nuanced. If we have a little bit more time, I wanted to share that I've been bouncing this off my husband because it makes me a little uncomfortable. But here's an example. I recently got hired by another community. This is a memory care community. And they said, oh, we'd love to have you come on the first and third Thursday in January. And I'm thinking, would like to come back the first and third Thursday every month. And
Right.
so, I mean, they did ask for my W-9. I know they wanted to hire me. It wasn't one of those. I did do a lot of free demos. I will say that that was also, as an aside, super helpful in getting in the door by offering a brief 20-minute free class to people.
Right.
Um, but what I did when I was confirming a couple weeks ago my first class, I said, I'm looking forward to seeing you on this date and on this date. And my schedule is filling up, which is the honest truth. So I will have you scheduled on my schedule every first and third Thursday moving forward.
Right.
So that was a little like, trying to like manifest, like,
Well, you know what? They're gonna tell you if they're like, "Oh, sorry, like we only wanted you for Ju—" they're gonna tell you, and that way also your schedule is booked up. Like if you wanna hold that spot for them, you wanna know because otherwise you could
yes.
decide to go out. Yeah. No, I think
Yes, so try to be a little more assertive. Another example, people are a little surprised when I say I did this. There was a memory care community. It's all memory care. No one else lives there but people who are cognitively impaired. They were having a job fair. And I just happened to find it, I think probably on LinkedIn or something. I knew of the place. And they said they were hiring activity assistants and like cafeteria workers and I don't know, some sort of other medical person. I thought, I'm going to show up. They were looking for activity assistants. They didn't
right.
say specifically an activity like yoga, but I whipped up the resume, printed some copies, showed up, was very forthcoming in saying, I'm here as a yoga instructor, hoping perhaps you would like me to bring some yoga to your residents. I understand that this is not an advertised position. So I understand if you would rather, move on to the next person or they're like, no, let's chat. So chatted with their whoever executive director. And then they said, here, we want you to talk to our activities director. Awesome. Did that. So it was really an unconventional way to get in the door. But I was truthful. That's at least how it made me feel better. I didn't try to sneak in and say, I want to be an
No.
activities assistant. Oh, wait, actually, just kidding. I'm just here to teach yoga. That would have
Yeah.
been slimy. So I was very upfront and candid, but it worked. Like, who knew?
That's amazing
It's just,
because I know a lot of care facilities will say, like, we're looking for someone to come in and do something. Like, I've been asked, hey, will you come in and teach yoga? Or who does that in our area? So
mhm.
I think good for you for putting yourself out there.
And a lot of them do it themselves, I
Yeah,
have
they
found.
do.
So,
I know. I've been
I'm like,
there.
wait a minute, you do not know what you're doing.
Right.
Come on. You really need to, so which is where the free demo comes in. It's like, here, can I at least show you what I do?
Yes.
And that is extremely effective in getting a foot in the door and getting hired, as long as they don't move to a new place and then you're hunting them down and trying to
Right.
figure out who the new person is. So it's,
Right.
yeah, it's a trip.
Is there anything else that you wish that you would have known sooner when you moved to your new location? Would there be something like if you could tell yourself something now or back then, like what you know now, you could tell yourself, what might it be?
Patience. The short break that I took, the couple minutes or couple of months break that I took, I thought I was quitting. Um, but it ended up reinforcing the fact that I love what I do and I need to figure out a way to do it, but without taking that kind of that pause or without truly considering quitting. I don't know if I would have discovered or, had that self realization that, oh, no, 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 you are not going to stop doing this. This is what you're meant to do. So taking a pause as much as you can afford to, I'm in a position where I was able to take that pause. I realize pivoting, I always think of that episode of Friends with the sofa going up, pivot, pivot, Ross, and they're trying to get the sofa. I don't know. I'm kind of old. That's a show from back in the day, but um, being willing to do that. Don't underestimate the value of reaching out you personally. Don't depend on necessarily your chamber of commerce or hide behind, I say, hide behind social media or, so try some of those non-traditional, but what worked really well in the old days can still work really well today. Showing up at a job fair or making that phone call or sending that email. It takes time. It's harder. It's so much easier just to send a little Facebook post and say, okay, who's going to engage?
Right.
Um, that I learned. And I continue to, be open to other opportunities. Always be open to that. That's these speaking engagements. It's like, huh, I thought I was just going to be teaching yoga for the rest of my life. I hope I will. I think it's going to be important if I'm going to do well with these teaching engagements because how can I speak to working with those in memory care if I'm not working with those in memory care continually?
Right. Right.
Continually, there's always something to learn. So being open just to different ways of pursuing your passion. Yeah, it's been a whole lot of lessons, Shannon.
Well, it's been amazing to watch you because you and I chat outside of the podcast. And so to hear your messages of like, total frustration, which we all have as business owners. I just want to say
Yeah,
that. Someone
yeah.
left me a message the other day and it was Jody. Shout out to Jody who listens to the
Mhm.
podcast saying, how do you do all this? I was like, right now I'm freaking out because I am like behind with something and this isn't working and this isn't working. And I'm just not talking about it on social media. So we all have
Mhm.
these like, you know, things going on.
And
Um,
imposter syndrome.
yeah, like
I'll
all
tell you,
kinds of things.
the first time I presented to the San Diego Dementia Consortium, I offered. I was like, here, I could talk about how I bring yoga to those that are in memory care. I had been teaching in memory care, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I was
Right.
like, I'll talk. I showed up with my little slideshow, find out in the room was a retired doctor who worked with memory care and in hospice his entire career, a psychologist who works exclusively with seniors, Alzheimer professionals that help place. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't know that when I offered to do this. But they loved it. They're like, wow, that's really great because they don't know yoga. They're
Right.
experts in dementia and seniors. They don't know how you can interweave the philosophy and the methods of yoga. So it ended up, but boy, was that like super scary. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? But
Did you find
you
out
gotta
through
put yourself.
introduction?
Did I find out what?
Like,
The
at what point had you already presented and then you found out who was there? Or was it like an introduction and then you were about to present?
It was as people were some were in person and some were online. That's always a thrill to try to talk to the computer and the people in
Right.
person, but it was seeing their, doctor so and so,
Right.
so and so, and, doctor so and so RN, or certified dementia such and such, like on Zoom or in the introductions before I spoke. So, whoo, yeah, no time to panic there. I was just like, just do it.
Right.
Sometimes you just that's yeah. So imposter syndrome all the time, but I've learned from you. You just it's okay. Still give it a go. You're unique in who you are and what you present, so it's still
Yeah.
worthwhile.
It's so true, especially when you've studied yoga for so long, you've done yoga, you've taught it. That's the skill that you have that medical professionals don't know that much about yoga. And same with PTs if they've never taken yoga or they've never studied yoga. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, I
Hmm.
love this so much. So, if our connected yoga teachers are moving to a new place, or if they're struggling to set things up, I hope they have a listen to this. And if they have more questions, I would say put them in the show notes page and we'll just get Jenny back to answer them.
Oh, please. I would love that. It does feel really good to finally after for so long being the one. I mean, I still listen to your podcast. I still am learning, the business side of things and yoga side of things, but it does feel really good to have an opportunity to say, "Hey, this is what I did. Maybe it'll help you. And if not, if you just need a sounding board, I'm a pretty good listener too. So I would love if I can save someone a little bit of grief or just hold space. We yoga
Yeah.
teachers are great at holding space, right? If I
Yeah.
can hold space for someone who had a even remotely similar journey, yes, I would love to be there for them.
Thank you so much, Jenny. If people want to reach out to you directly, maybe
Mhm.
they want to learn more, hire you as a speaker, or maybe they live near you, or they want to sign up for online, whatever,
Mhm.
for this population. Where do they go?
Well, you taught me years ago. Pick one channel to send people to. I'm assuming that still probably holds true. I will invite them to go to my website, which is not easy to spell, but maybe you could put that somewhere. It's JennieMacGoyYoga.com. And there are opportunities, contact me or click here to contact Jenny. So it's hard to spell my first name and my last name. Do you want me to spell it out or you just want to put it in the
We'll
show
put it
notes
in
or
the show
something?
notes, but let me spell it out. JennieMacGoy yoga.com.
.com. That is it. Yeah, I see a reworking of that down the road. Make that a little shorter, a little easier. But yes, that is the best place to find me, and I would be happy to chat in whatever form it comes to talk to people.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Shannon. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I love, love, love this message that I heard. This key takeaway in the episode was that you did not give up. You took a break, you regrouped, and you even asked yourself if you still wanted to share yoga. And once you knew the answer to that, you found how to make it work. You dove back in, you networked. I love that cold calling was part of that. That's an amazing, inspiring story. And you just made it happen. And I know it wasn't easy. And connected yoga teachers, as I said in today's episode, I talk with Jenny like periodically on and off. And so I got to hear the struggles that Jenny was having in real time. And I know that she really was reaching out and saying like, what about this? What about growing this part of my business? Jennie had the answers all along, but I just want to say, if you're in that spot in your business, take a break, regroup if you need to. Ask the tough questions. Is it time for me to shift and move to something else? Or is this what I still really want to do? And then dive back in and try new things and see what it's like when you focus on growing your business. And I'm not just saying this for all of you listeners. I'm thinking that this is one of the key takeaways for myself. As a podcaster, I've shared this on the podcast. There are times when I feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Or is this working? Or is this helping? Or is this what I want to do? Like, especially when I'm sitting at my computer with some like website issue or tech issue. And I just think, what are the other people in the world doing right now? You know those moments in your business. We all have them. Okay, if you are looking for links from today's episode, those are over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/368. All of our show notes are there. And the really cool thing is there are clickable timestamps. So if there's ever an episode and you're like, I want to go back and listen to that episode about like moving or whatever it is, you can search our website. The search bar is really cool. And then also you can click on the timestamps and see what we talked about. We like to keep life simple for you because I know you're busy. And so check out the show notes. Crunch does an amazing job with those. If you found this podcast helpful in any way, we appreciate it so much when you leave a review or you share it in some way, you tell another yoga teacher about it. That means the world to us. It really does make a difference. You make this podcast possible. If you want to hang out in real time, we are doing that yoga series with Kathleen Pratt up until April the 9th, 2024. That's live. You can also grab the replay if it's beyond that date. And then we have a couple of other really cool live calls coming up, also part of Pelvic Health Professionals. It's run as a membership model, meaning you can sign up for 1 month and have access for that full month. Check it out, see if you like it. If it's not a good fit and you've never tried it before, you can ask for a full refund before the end of that 30 days is up. Or you can also cancel at any time if you're like, yep, I want to jump in for a month, learn all the things in here, and then leave. That's no problem. So April, we're doing a call with Sherry Dostal-Ryba, all about pelvic embodiment. And then in May, we're talking with Brittany Sharp-McCollum about how to support the pelvis during pregnancy. So to check all of that out and every other call we've ever done in there, visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com. Now, if you have a question for us for the podcast, if there is a topic that you want us to cover, we love to hear about those topics. There's a voicemail button on our website. If you go to theconnectedyogateacher.com, you can see the button on the right, or you can email me, Shannon, at theconnectedyogateacher.com, or you can ask the question in our Facebook groups to not only get my opinion on something, but also to ask, tens of thousands of yoga teachers from around the world. So if you go to theconnectedyogateacher.com, you can see the join button right on our homepage. That group is super helpful. And if you want my thoughts on something, if you want me to see the question, make sure to tag me in that. And then also tell me if you think it needs to be a podcast episode. One other personal note here, Connected Yoga Teachers. It's been quite the week over here. I posted a reel, which was a story. I posted it as a story, and lots of my friends were like, oh my gosh, I love this energy. And so I posted this Instagram reel and just of myself saying like how strange it feels right now to be called names when I'm being called a woke liberal extremist, when I'm speaking up for peace and equality for all people, including Palestinian people. And I have to say, I have deleted harmful messages, hundreds of harmful messages. I'm really excited that the reel got liked and shared, and I got a lot of amazing comments. And then there are some comments that have been, anything from ridiculous to, oh my gosh, how do people have this much time? Or wow, this is a level of racism and harm that I will not allow on my social media. And I just want to say, like, if you are a fellow yoga teacher who's speaking up for any social justice issues, I want to hear from you. I want to support the work that you're doing. I know that when you do something like speak up for Palestine or speak up for women's rights or trans rights or any social justice activism, it pulls you away from the work that you might be doing and the enjoyment of life you might be having. You spend time talking about these important things. And so I want to know who you are. Make sure we connect maybe on Instagram or Facebook and tell me about an offering that you're doing so that I can share it out with the world. Because that is the one thing that's helping right now, is to find other people who really care about all humans, not just saying like, I only care about these humans over here who live in this country, or these humans who have this set of beliefs, or these humans who voted for this leader. Instead, I know it sounds like people tell me constantly, not people who care about me, but I do hear like, you can't like speak up for everything. And I'd say, you know what? I feel like I can, and I'm going to keep doing it. We can change things that are happening right now when we stand up collectively together. Someone just reached out to me this week to say, because of your Facebook post, Shannon, I just called my Canadian MP. That's what our local rep is called. This person told me that I had permission to share their message that they sent to me anonymously. They said that they had never reached out to their MP in their life, and that they did it to call for a ceasefire, to let their leader know they're not okay with funding weapons to any country. And it meant a lot to get that message. And they also wanted me to know that my post made a difference. So I want you to know that if you are speaking up for climate change, or like people without a home in your community, or Indigenous rights, or anything that's super important to you, I want you to know that, take a break when you need to, recharge, and then let's keep going together as a collective. 3 people who are doing that are on our team. I am so grateful for these 3 amazing humans. Suzanne, Crunch, and Sinead are speaking up for human rights, animal rights, the planet, like in amazing ways. So if you want to connect with them, head over to our website, theconnectedyogateacher.com, look at about our team, check them out, support them, follow them on social media, send them lots of love. They're just amazing people that make this podcast happen. And you, dear listener, listening all the way to the end of today's episode, thank you for making this podcast possible. And I want to leave you with a question. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community, so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?